Alaska is easily one of the strangest states in the Union, being placed in such a unique and remote location. Juneau, the state's capital, is totally disconnected from the rest of the state from road, with massive mountains in the way that give it a weird overall feeling. And it has the dumbest capitol building in the country. Communities in the north like Prudhoe Bay and Barrow serve important uses to the oil industry of the state, but the only connection to the rest of the state is on the Dalton Highway, one of the most treacherous routes in the country. I mean, heck, most of these cities don't even see total darkness during most of the summer months. It's weird there. Something I find even weirder than any of those situations, though, is the city of Whittier, a city that lives in conditions you couldn't possibly imagine anywhere else in the country, with every resident living in one major residential building together. Before we talk about it, though, I have new merch. For the channel's 4th anniversary, we decided to put some new interstate-themed designs on the website, which are my favorites I've released yet. Please check it out and support me and my channel, since I think it looks really good, and we make sure to keep it as cheap as physically possible, so thank you so much. The link is beavergeo.shop. So, Whittier, Alaska is clearly one of the strangest communities in the US. Like, where else do you find cities nicknamed the town under one roof, but it's just not a joke at all? Pretty crazy. The city is located around 50 miles to the southeast of downtown Anchorage, with this being a pretty crazy drive that takes you along the coast and through a mountain. But that doesn't make the location any less important due to its historical importance. See, Whittier is a vital port town, and it became this way due to its location on the other coast of the peninsula from Anchorage. It's not too quick for ships to make their way the entire way around the peninsula, so at the very least it's a good location to stop if need be. Originally it served as a portage, though this doesn't really work the same way as it did since the idea of a portage is slim at best. Now though, there is a railroad connection that goes from Whittier to Anchorage, which can save a ton of time. This is why most of the city is so industrial and built for that purpose specifically. Continuing with the port, it's also become an important cruise destination. Looking around the area, it is important to note it's absolutely stunning and has no shortage of large glaciers. Boats can make their way into this bay and head to the north to check that stuff out, which has been very helpful for Whittier's economy and feeling a bit less isolated from everything else. Speaking of isolation, let's talk about transportation. I know I hinted at it before, but yes, Whittier has just one connection in and out, and that's the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel. This tunnel is 2.5 miles long, and it's the longest road tunnel in North America, all for a town of 272 people. This is longer than the Eisenhower Tunnel, anything on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel or in that area. It's in a league of its own, leading by nearly a mile. So how did they do this? Well, it's because of the real importance, which is rail usage. It was excavated in the 1940s to connect rail to the Anchorage area, which brings us back to what I had said before. But it wasn't actually until 1998 that it was upgraded to vehicular usage, being another high-end project that meant a lot for this town. A lot of the process came with upgrading and constructing the road on either side, with that being one of the main logistics of a bimodal tunnel like this. It was already wide enough to fit most cars though, so that wasn't the question. It was instead how long it would take to pave and connect these entrances with these signalized lights and stuff, which require a surprising amount of engineering. You can see the wide 9-lane area paved here, and this gives you a peek to how long it may take to wait to get through the tunnel, which by the way is insanely creepy. Nobody wants to drive through this thin 1-lane dark tunnel while just hoping and praying a train doesn't come out of nowhere. You also have to wait for traffic in the other direction because it's one lane, and it's not like people are driving fast, so it can be a tedious task. And now, what you've all been waiting for is the population and housing situation of Whittier residents. The city has a population of 272, and nearly all of these residents live in the Beaver Towers. This is a 14-floor condo building with 196 units, and its reason for existence is fascinating. Now, originally it was built as a military building. Whittier was big in World War II, with soldiers setting up shop in the community. Eventually, they decided to drop some dough on the headquarters of the Army Corps of Engineers here. Along with this came the construction of another government building, the Buckner Building, to the northeast, which will be important later on. And both of these buildings were literally the largest two in Alaska at the time of their completion, showing the already strange situation the city had found itself in. So it was a large military community until an important day in 1963 when the Good Friday earthquake hit. The magnitude was 9.3 and it hit this general area, destroying much of the city. This led the government to basically leave, leading to the Beaver Towers being switched to a residential building and the Buckner Building closing down. Whittier went from 800 residents to 130, and turns out it ended up working out pretty good for everyone to just live in one building in the cold and harsh climate. Looking around the area, there's not a lot of room to work with mountains everywhere. Seeing each other really isn't that bad when there's such geographic isolation, and the building is pretty good overall. Looking at the amenities, there's a post office, a corner store, a laundromat, a church, an indoor playground, and formerly a police station. Continuing on, there's a tunnel that runs straight to the school so people can easily get there without going outside. It closes at night though, presumably because it's insanely creepy. Now, I did mention another building, which is yet another thing about Whittier that really stands out to me. This is the abandoned Buckner building, and it's located up on the hillside in a more isolated location, and it's gotta be one of the scariest buildings I've ever seen in my life. It's fully abandoned, doesn't really have much police presence stopping people from entering it, and so it has a ton of graffiti, and I don't even want to know what goes on inside of it. Luckily, there isn't enough tourism or crime in this weird small town for it to be a crazy issue, so it's just sat here for 50 years as seriously one of the scariest buildings in America. I also want to mention Whittier Manor, the only other building that has people residing in it. It has one restaurant and a few residential units, but I'm not entirely sure why you choose to live there rather than the big cool apartment to the south. Finally, taking a step back, we look at Whittier's climate and geography, because you can look past it if you're not thinking about how Whittier is one of the most beautiful locations out there. It's one of the wettest areas in the US, getting an average of 198 inches of rain every single year. Giving you a comparison, New Orleans gets 62 inches, being known as a rainy city. So Whittier is pretty wet, and it's also cold. It gets up into the 60s in the summer months, but usually it just stays at the dreary 30s and 40s mark, obviously getting as low as 0 most winter nights, with 268 extra inches of snow. All of this comes together to show off the ocean and the snow-capped mountains, which most of the time are covered in fog and precipitation. There's just really not a lot of places like it. Alaska is unique in many respects, but somehow a city of just 270 people can lead the way in this, showing off everything the state is and why it's looked upon in such a fascinating regard by the rest of the country. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the members this week: Luke Vlogs, Devante, Underpass Music Official, the Autistic City Skylines fan, Richard Horwell, Florida Jakes, RFP Sub Rail Fanning, Dutch Vanderlyn, Big Golden Yoshi fan, James Cermak, Rob R, Big Pasty, Jameson Headley, Colonel Potter, Eric Harris, their JC17, Dro McCall, The Baked Fruit, Andres Quintero, Jesse Cook, JL Enrico, Richard Law, Alexander Lichko, Laura Halliday, Charles Watson, Aiden Kyles, The Happy Hode, Grant Dickerson, Midwest Rail Fan, Mick Kastner, D, Stephen Phillips, CJ Brick, Resident Contrarian, Haas of the Wolf, Brock Sanders, Stephen Priestman, SB Wilder, Mickey Martinoff, Kurt Ainsley, KMS162, Bryson, Rosebud 4, Darkbird, Snyder Swine, Benjamin Whitings, and Ryan Devins. I appreciate you all. You've been so helpful over the past few years. I still make City Skylines content, which is members only, so if you want to become a member and watch that series, the link is down in the description below. All the money goes straight into my savings, so I promise it's going to a very good cause. It's just going to help me out in the future. Thank you so much.